Orphaned girl saved a native infant from coyotes. Next day, 400 warriors blocked the mountain pass. The sun had not yet risen over the distant mountains when the orphaned girl stepped out of her small shelter. The cold air bit at her cheeks, and frost covered the ground, making her small footprints shine in the early light. She had been living alone for many months, surviving with whatever she could find in the forest. She knew every path, every bush, and every hidden stream near the mountain pass. Life had taught her to be careful, but it had also taught her courage. She had lost her family long ago, and though the world could feel lonely, she had learned to face it alone. That morning she gathered her small basket and headed into the forest to collect berries and roots. The trees were tall and old, their branches twisting in the cold wind. Birds chirped softly, their calls echoing through the forest. But something felt different that day. The usual sounds of nature seemed quiet, and the girl paused. She tilted her head and listened. There it was, a soft cry, barely louder than the rustle of leaves. Her heart skipped a beat. It was the sound of a child. Her mind raced. She had seen travelers and traders pass near the mountains, but this sound was closer. Someone, a baby, was in danger. She did not hesitate. The girl ran lightly over the uneven ground, her small feet careful not to slip on the frost. The cry grew louder, and soon she found herself at the edge of a rocky clearing. There, lying among the rocks, was a small native infant. The child was shivering, wrapped only in a thin blanket, and the girl's heart sank. She knew that wild animals were not far away. Coyotes often roamed these woods at night, and the little one could not survive alone. Fear gripped her for a moment. She looked around, but there was no one else in sight. The shadows of the trees stretched long across the ground, and the wind carried low howls in the distance. She could see movement, thin shapes slinking among the rocks. Coyotes! Her chest tightened, but she did not step back. With careful hands, she picked up the baby, holding it close to her chest. The child whimpered softly, its tiny hands clinging to her coat. The girl whispered to it, trying to soothe it. "It's okay, little one. You're safe now. I won't let anything hurt you," she thought quickly. The fire she had made the night before could still burn, but the baby was too cold and weak to leave alone. She took a small stone from her pocket and struck it against another, sending a spark to the dry kindling she had prepared. Flames flickered to life. She placed the baby near her body, using her warmth to shield it from the cold. The coyotes were closer now, their eyes reflecting the firelight, but the girl's voice rang out in a strong, firm tone. She shouted, clapping her hands. The coyotes stopped, their ears twitching. Unsure of the sudden sound, they snarled, but the girl did not move. She used a stick to make louder noises, banging it on the rocks. The animals hesitated, then slowly retreated into the shadows. The girl's hands trembled as she wrapped the baby in her coat more tightly. She felt a surge of relief, but knew she could not rest yet. The infant was cold and hungry. She needed to keep it warm and calm until the morning. She held it close, humming soft songs she remembered from her own childhood. Memories of her mother and father filled her mind, faces long gone, smiles long faded, but she pushed the sadness aside. Right now she had a life to protect, one small life that depended entirely on her courage and care. The hours passed slowly. The wind howled through the trees, and snow began to fall lightly, dusting the ground in white. The girl used her cloak to shield the baby from the flakes, and she kept the fire alive with the twigs and dry leaves. She whispered stories, telling the child about the forest, the mountains, and the animals that lived there. She spoke of the stars that would shine above the clearing tonight, and the sun that would rise again in the morning. Her voice was soft, steady, and comforting. The baby's cries grew quieter, replaced by tiny hiccups of sleep. As the night deepened, the girl's mind wandered. She wondered how the child had come to be alone in such a dangerous place. Perhaps it had been lost during a journey or left behind by someone in a moment of fear or misfortune. She did not question it for long. What mattered was keeping the infant safe. Her thoughts returned to the shadows moving in the distance. Coyotes could return at any moment, and she had to remain vigilant. She scanned the darkness, her eyes sharp and alert, listening for any sign of danger. Hours later, the first light of dawn began to touch the treetops. The girl's small body was stiff from the cold, but her heart was full of hope. She held the baby close and whispered, "We made it through the night. You're safe with me." She knew that help would come eventually, that someone was searching for the child. The question was how long it would take, and whether they would find them before danger returned. She adjusted the blankets around the baby, keeping it warm against her chest, and started to plan the next step. She decided to move slowly toward the mountain pass. From there, travelers often passed, and perhaps someone would notice her and offer help. Each step was careful, avoiding loose stones and icy patches. The baby was heavy, but she refused to set it down. Every sound made her heart race, the snapping of a twig, the rustle of leaves. But the child remained calm in her arms. The girl's determination grew with each step. She would not let the baby be harmed, not while she had the strength to protect it. As the morning light grew brighter, the girl spotted something that made her pause. A group of figures appeared in the distance, moving steadily toward the mountain pass. They were not strangers, she realized. They were warriors, hundreds of them, moving with purpose and precision. Her pulse quickened. He held the infant tightly and watched as they formed a silent line, blocking the path across the mountains. She had never seen so many people gathered together, and a sense of awe mixed with fear filled her. She did not understand yet why they were there, but she knew one thing clearly: the baby was hers to protect until they came closer. She stepped forward carefully, her eyes meeting those of the nearest warriors. They did not shout or wave. They simply watched. Her voice trembled slightly as she called out, "I found this child last night. I kept it safe from the animals." "I mean no harm." A silence followed. The wind carried her words across the mountains, and the warriors remained still. Then an elder stepped forward. His face was lined with age and experience, his eyes filled with concern and relief at the same time. He looked at the baby, then at the girl, and nodded slowly. The girl's shoulders relaxed slightly. Perhaps they had been searching for the infant all night. Perhaps her courage and care had kept the child alive until help arrived. For the first time in many months, the orphan girl felt a sense of peace. She had faced fear, darkness, and danger, and she had done what was right. She had saved a life. And though she did not yet know what the future held, she knew one thing: she would not let the baby be harmed, not by the wild, not by the cold, and not by the uncertainty of the world. She had chosen courage, and that choice had led her to this moment, at the edge of the mountain pass, where her small heart and brave spirit had met the watchful eyes of the warriors who would soon protect them both. The sun rose higher, casting golden light over the frost-covered ground. The girl adjusted the baby in her arms and took a deep breath. She would step forward now, into the light, ready to face whatever came next. The night had tested her, but the morning brought hope, and in that hope she carried the life of the child, a life she had saved with nothing but her courage and love. The mountain air was sharp and cold as the orphan girl clutched the infant close to her chest. Her small feet moved carefully over the rocky path, her eyes fixed on the line of warriors standing silently across the pass. She could not see their faces clearly in the distance, but she felt their presence like a wall of strength, hundreds of them, all watching, all waiting. She had never seen so many people in one place, and the weight of the moment pressed heavily on her shoulders. She tightened her grip on the child, whispering softly, "It's okay. We are going to be all right." The girl's mind raced. Who were these warriors? Why were they here? And most importantly, would they take the child away, or see her as someone who had protected it? She took a deep breath and reminded herself that fear could not guide her now. She had made it through the night alone, facing coyotes and cold winds, and she had succeeded in keeping the baby safe. Whatever came next, she would stand strong. Step by careful step she moved forward. Each rock she crossed seemed louder than the last, each crack in the earth echoing in the quiet of the morning. The baby stirred against her chest but did not cry. Sensing her calm and steady heartbeat, the girl whispered stories to it, telling it about the mountains, the trees, and the small animals that had watched over them during the night. She spoke with patience, knowing that her words carried comfort, more powerful than any fire. As she drew closer, the warriors remained silent, their movements measured and disciplined. The girl noticed that they were not armed with weapons raised in anger. Their bows hung at their sides, and their hands rested on the hilts of simple tools. Their stance was alert, but not threatening. It was clear that they were waiting for something, perhaps for her to make the first move. Her heart pounded. She stopped a few steps away from the first line of warriors and held the baby up slightly so they could see it clearly. The child's tiny face peeked out from her coat, its eyes wide with curiosity and fear. The girl's voice trembled only slightly as she spoke. "I found this child last night near the rocks. It was alone and cold.
I kept it safe. Please. I mean no harm."
"I only wanted to protect it." For a moment there was silence so deep that the girl thought the wind itself had stopped. Then a low murmur ran through the line of warriors. They did not shout or move aggressively. They spoke quietly among themselves, in a language the girl could not understand. She could see nods and hand gestures, but she did not know what they meant. Fear threatened to creep back into her chest, but she steadied herself. She could not falter now. The baby was counting on her. Suddenly, one of the elders stepped forward from the center of the line. His face was lined with age and wisdom, and his eyes held both caution and relief. He looked at the child in her arms, then back at the girl. A long moment passed, during which the girl felt as if time itself had paused. The elder's gaze was steady yet gentle, and the girl felt a strange sense of understanding passing between them. She knew he could see her courage, her fear, and her determination all at once. The elder took a step closer, and the girl instinctively moved back slightly, though her body was trembling with exhaustion from the long night. She whispered softly to the baby, "We are almost there. Stay calm." The infant's tiny hands curled around her coat, clinging to the warmth and safety she offered. The girl could feel the child's heartbeat quicken slightly, echoing her own. The elder raised a hand, and the warriors behind him fell silent completely. He spoke slowly, using words the girl did not understand, but his tone was kind. Then, one of the warriors stepped forward with a small bundle of soft cloth. The girl realized that it was meant for the child. Relief flooded through her. She carefully took the bundle, wrapping the baby in it more securely. The warmth seeped through, and the baby's body relaxed slightly. The girl whispered thanks in her own language, even though she doubted they understood, and the elder nodded gently in return. The girl took another careful step forward. She placed the baby down briefly on a smooth rock, still holding on to the cloth and ready to lift it again at any sign of danger. The elder approached and knelt down, looking directly at the child. He reached out slowly, his movements deliberate and respectful. The girl watched closely, her heart pounding. She could see the relief in his eyes as he gently touched the baby's hand. The child cooed softly in response, recognizing the calm and care in the elder's voice. The other warriors began to relax. Their stance softened slightly, and some stepped back, allowing space for the girl and the elder. She realized that they were not threatening her. They were grateful, cautious, and protective of the child. Understanding passed through her slowly. These warriors had been searching for the baby all night. They had been worried for its safety, and now, at last, they had found it. The girl felt her shoulders loosen. She had survived the night, faced her fears, and protected the child until help arrived. Tears threatened, but she held them back. She could not cry yet, not when the baby's safety was still her responsibility. Instead, she focused on the simple act of breathing steadily, keeping calm, and staying present. Every movement she made was deliberate, showing the warriors that she had only acted out of care and courage. The elder smiled faintly, his eyes showing understanding and respect. He spoke again in his language, and the girl noticed subtle nods and gestures from the other warriors. They seemed to be acknowledging her bravery, her strength, and her careful actions. A sense of pride swelled in her chest, not for herself, but for having done the right thing. She had protected a life when no one else could, and that truth was enough to carry her through the tension. After several moments, the elder gently lifted the child, cradling it with care. The baby's small face rested against his chest, calm and safe. The girl watched silently, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. She had grown attached to the child over the long, cold night. Yet she understood that this was right. The baby belonged with its people, with those who had been searching for it, who could offer warmth, care, and protection in a way she could not. The warriors began to move as a group, opening a path through the mountain pass. They gestured for the girl to follow, and though her legs shook slightly, she obeyed. Every step she took was careful, but she felt a growing sense of belonging in this small act of unity. For the first time in many months, she was not alone. The warriors walked with purpose, their presence reassuring, and she felt safe in their company. As they moved forward, the elder spoke softly to her in a broken but kind form of her language. He asked her how she had found the child, how she had kept it safe, and whether she had been alone the entire night. The girl explained everything simply, telling him about the cry in the dark, the cold, the coyotes, and the fire she had made to protect the baby. The elder listened intently, nodding at each detail. He seemed to understand fully, and his expression showed respect for her courage and resourcefulness. The journey through the mountain pass was long, but it was calm. The warriors kept their formation steady, guiding the girl and the baby safely along the path. Occasionally, she glanced at the infant, who slept peacefully, warmed by the elder's steady arms. She whispered quietly, "You are safe now. You will be safe from now on." Her heart was full of hope, and a quiet sense of accomplishment settled over her. She had faced the dangers of the night, the fear of the wild, and the uncertainty of the unknown, and she had emerged with the child safe in her care until the right hands could take over. By the time the group reached a small clearing at the edge of the pass, the sun had risen fully, casting golden light over the snow-dusted rocks. The warmth of morning touched their faces, and the girl felt her body relax fully for the first time since she had picked up the child. The warriors gathered in a semicircle, and the elder addressed her again. His words were simple, kind, and full of gratitude. Though she did not understand all of them, the meaning was clear. They honored her bravery, her care, and her choice to protect a life when no one else could. The girl smiled faintly, tears of relief welling in her eyes. She had done what was right, and it had mattered. The baby was safe, the warriors were calm and grateful, and she had proven to herself that courage could overcome fear. For the first time in a long time, she felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this encounter would mark a new beginning, not only for the child, but for herself as well. The elder gestured for her to rest, offering her food and water from a small bag he carried. The girl accepted, feeling a warmth in her body and heart. She sat down carefully, watching the baby in the elder's arms, listening to the soft murmurs of the warriors around her, and taking in the beauty of the sunlit mountain pass. The night's terror was behind them, replaced now by trust, safety, and a fragile but growing sense of belonging. For the first time, the orphaned girl realized that courage, compassion, and determination could create change, even in the darkest moments. She had faced fear alone, protected a life, and found herself among people who valued her actions. The mountain pass was no longer just a path between distant peaks. It had become a place of new possibilities, a place where bravery and kindness were recognized and honored. And though she had no family left, the girl knew that she had made a difference. She had saved a life, and that act had already begun to shape the world around her. The warrior's presence, once intimidating, now felt like protection. The baby's soft breathing was a reminder of hope and renewal, and the sun, rising over the mountain peaks, promised a new day, one in which courage, compassion, and love would continue to guide her path. The orphan girl sat quietly in the clearing, her small hands still holding the soft cloth that had wrapped the infant. Around her, the warriors moved with calm purpose, speaking quietly in their native language. Though she did not understand their words, she could feel the meaning in their gestures, the nods, and the careful way they handled the baby.
It was clear that these people valued life deeply and treated each other with respect.
The girl had never seen such unity, and a sense of awe filled her heart. She had survived many nights alone, but this, being among so many strong and careful people, felt like stepping into a world far larger than her own. The elder who had first approached her earlier now returned and sat down across from her. He gestured gently toward the child and then to her, as if asking her to tell him what had happened. The girl took a deep breath. Though she had told part of the story earlier, she now spoke more fully, recounting the previous night in detail. She described how she had heard the cries, found the baby among the rocks, and protected it from the coyotes. She spoke of the cold wind, the frost on the ground, and the fear that had tried to take over her courage. As she spoke, she saw understanding grow in the elder's eyes. He nodded slowly, listening to each word, and once in a while he looked toward the other warriors, who were now still and attentive. Though she did not know their language, the girl realized that her actions had created trust. She had faced danger alone and had chosen to protect another life rather than run or hide. That simple act of courage had bridged the gap between a lonely child in the mountains and a tribe that had been searching desperately for the infant. After she finished, the elder reached out and gently touched her hand. It was a small gesture, but it carried great meaning. She felt warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she had not known in a long time. For the first time, she felt recognized, appreciated, and seen, not just as a girl who had survived, but as someone whose choices had made a difference. The baby cooed softly in the elder's arms, and she smiled, realizing that her presence had brought comfort not only to the child, but also to these people who had been worried. The elder spoke again, slowly and gently, pointing to her and then to the baby. Though she did not understand the words, the tone was kind and approving. Other warriors stepped closer, offering small gestures of welcome, a warm blanket, a small pouch of berries, and fresh water. Each act reassured her that she had nothing to fear here. The initial tension that had filled her chest when she first saw the warriors now melted into relief. They were not just strangers, they were protectors, and they were grateful for what she had done. The girl began to relax. She sat on the edge of the clearing, still watching the baby and the elder carefully. The child's tiny face peeked out from the blankets, blinking at the sun that now bathed the mountains in warm light. She could feel the soft breath of the infant against her hand, and a deep sense of connection filled her. This small life, which had come into the world under dangerous circumstances, had now survived because of her courage and care. She realized that bravery was not only about facing wild animals or enduring the cold. It was also about making choices that mattered, choices that saved lives. As the morning unfolded, the warriors began to move as a group, forming a slow procession through the clearing. They gestured for the girl to walk alongside them. At first, she hesitated, unsure if she should follow. She had always been alone, navigating the mountains and forests by herself. Trusting others had not been part of her life. Yet when she saw the way the warriors looked at her, respectful, calm, and patient, she felt something shift inside her. She nodded slowly and stepped forward, keeping the baby close. The elder stayed near, speaking softly to the child, and the girl listened, learning the tone of care and protection that these people shared. The path through the mountains was not easy. Rocks and roots made the ground uneven, and the girl had to watch every step. The baby slept peacefully, wrapped in warm blankets, and the girl felt a quiet pride. She had carried this small life through the night and into safety. Now she walked with others who respected her efforts, and a strange but welcome feeling of belonging began to grow. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel completely alone in the world. Along the way, the elder spoke to her again, using gestures and broken words that she could understand. He asked if she had family, if she had been living alone, and if she had learned to survive on her own. She nodded, explaining in simple words that she had no family left, and that she had learned to find food, make fires, and stay safe in the mountains. He listened with patience and understanding, acknowledging each word with nods and gentle smiles. She felt accepted, as if her past struggles were seen and honored rather than ignored or judged. As they moved further, the girl noticed the other warriors watching her closely, but not in a threatening way. They were attentive, protective, and respectful. Some carried simple tools for climbing, while others carried baskets of food. They moved with coordination, speaking in low tones, and occasionally glancing at her and the baby. She realized that they had been searching for the child not just out of duty, but out of deep care. Their dedication reminded her that life was precious and that acts of kindness, no matter how small, could inspire trust and gratitude. The girl's thoughts wandered to her own life. For many months she had been alone, navigating the mountains without guidance. She had faced danger, hunger, and fear every day. Yet, in this moment, she realized that her courage and determination had led to connection. She had acted with compassion, protecting the infant when no one else could, and now she was part of something larger, a community bound by care, respect, and shared responsibility. This realization filled her heart with a quiet strength. She understood that bravery was not only about surviving. It was about making choices that helped others, even when fear pressed heavily on the heart. By midday, they reached a wide plateau that overlooked the valley below. The elder gestured for the girl to sit and rest. They had brought her a small meal of berries, dried meat, and water. She ate slowly, feeling her body regain strength, and the baby slept on a soft blanket near her. The elder sat beside her, speaking gently, pointing to the child and then to her, and nodding as if explaining that she had done the right thing. She smiled faintly, tears of relief welling in her eyes. For the first time in a long while, she felt that she had made a meaningful difference in the world. After resting, the group continued toward a small village hidden in the trees. The girl followed closely, learning as she went. The warriors moved with purpose, teaching her silently about paths to avoid, the signs of wildlife, and how to read the subtle changes in the forest. Though she had survived alone for months, she realized that there was much she could learn from others who understood the land and its dangers. And for the first time, she felt that learning did not mean fear or weakness. It meant connection, growth, and understanding. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the forest, the girl noticed that the baby had awakened. Its small eyes blinked at her, and it reached toward her hand. She smiled softly and lifted it gently, holding it close once more. The child cooed and stretched, and she felt a deep bond growing between them. Though the baby was now among its people, she realized that this connection would remain. Her courage had protected this small life, and in return, it had brought her a sense of purpose she had never known before. By evening, they reached the village where other members of the tribe gathered. The girl watched as the infant was reunited with its family. Relief and gratitude shone in the elders' faces. The child's parents held it close, whispering soft words of thanks to the girl. Though she could not understand all the words, she felt their meaning in the warm smiles, gentle gestures, and quiet nods. The girl realized that her actions had created bonds that transcended words. Courage, care, and kindness had spoken louder than anything else. The elder who had first approached her came forward again. He knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. His eyes were full of respect, and he gestured toward the village, as if inviting her to stay. For the first time, the girl felt that she could belong somewhere. She had always survived alone, but now she realized that there were people who valued her, trusted her, and recognized her bravery. Her heart filled with a sense of possibility she had never felt before. The night fell gently over the village, with stars sparkling above the mountains. The girl sat quietly near the fire with the elder, watching the family she had saved. She felt a quiet pride and deep peace. She had faced fear alone, protected a life through the cold and dark, and brought the child safely into the care of its people. In doing so, she had learned something essential. Courage and kindness could bridge gaps between strangers, and a single act of care could change the course of life for many. As she drifted to sleep near the warmth of the fire, she whispered softly to herself, "I did what was right, and that is enough." The village slept quietly around her, the sounds of the night calm and safe. The girl, once alone and wandering the mountains, now felt the beginnings of connection, purpose, and hope. She had survived the darkness, and now the light of trust, care, and human connection filled her heart. The next morning, the orphaned girl awoke to the soft golden light of the sun spilling across the village. Birds chirped in the trees, and the gentle murmur of the warriors moving about filled the air. For the first time in months, she felt safe. She had survived alone in the mountains, faced the dangers of the night, and protected a child through frost, fear, and darkness. Now surrounded by the warmth of a community, she realized that her life was beginning to change in ways she had never imagined. The elder who had first found her approached quietly, carrying a small bundle of food and a warm cloth for her. He placed them in front of her with careful hands and gestured toward the girl, smiling gently. Though she did not understand all of his words, his meaning was clear. They were inviting her to stay, to rest, and to become part of their lives. The girl hesitated at first. She had always been alone, used to depending only on herself. Trusting others had never come easily. Yet, as she looked around at the faces of the warriors, at the child now cradled safely in its mother's arms, she felt a warmth in her chest she had not known in years. Slowly she stood and followed the elder through the village. The villagers paused in their work to look at her. Some offered small nods, others whispered quietly among themselves. She could see curiosity and respect in their eyes. It was not the same as fear or judgment. It was recognition. Recognition of someone who had done something brave and meaningful. Her heart lifted, and she felt a sense of belonging begin to take root. She had always walked alone, but now she realized that people could value her, even care for her, without needing anything in return. The elder led her to a small dwelling at the edge of the village. He gestured for her to sit and handed her the food he had brought. She ate slowly, savoring the warmth of the meal and the soft sunlight streaming through the doorway. The baby's mother approached and knelt beside her, offering a small smile and a few words. Though the girl could not understand the language fully, the tone was kind and gentle, filled with gratitude. The child's mother gently touched the girl's hand, a simple gesture that conveyed thanks for the night she had endured. The girl's chest filled with a quiet pride. She had protected a life, and now she was witnessing the relief and joy that her actions had brought to others. Over the next few hours, the girl began to explore the village with the elder by her side. She saw people working together to carry water, gather food, and tend to small gardens. Children played near the edge of the trees, laughing and calling to each other. The warriors moved with discipline, their coordination smooth and natural. Everything was orderly, yet alive with warmth and purpose. The girl felt a strange mix of awe and comfort. She had survived harsh mountains and freezing nights alone, but here, life was full of rhythm, care, and community. She realized that there was much she could learn from these people. The elder guided her to a quiet spot near the river that ran through the village. He gestured for her to sit, and then pointed to the water, the trees, and the sky. Through gestures and broken words, he began to teach her about the land, the ways of the forest, and the rhythms of the mountains. The girl listened closely, absorbing every detail. She had always known how to survive on her own, but now she understood that knowledge could be shared, refined, and expanded through connection. This was not just survival, it was understanding, learning, and belonging. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the girl noticed that the baby had been placed in a soft blanket near the riverbank. The child cooed softly, reaching toward the water with tiny hands. She watched carefully, feeling a deep sense of connection to the life she had protected. She realized that the bond she had formed with this child was not just about survival. It was about care, trust, and the choice to act when it mattered most. Her courage had created a ripple of gratitude, safety, and joy that extended beyond herself. The elder beckoned for her to follow him deeper into the village. They arrived at a small open area where several warriors had gathered. He gestured for her to sit and then began speaking slowly, pointing toward the child, the village, and her own hands. The meaning became clear. They were offering her a place among them. She could stay, learn their ways, and be part of their community. The girl's heart raced. She had never imagined being accepted by others so fully, especially after living alone for so long. The thought of joining a community both excited and frightened her. She looked around at the warriors, seeing their calm and steady eyes. There was no judgment, only respect. They had witnessed her bravery and understood the choices she had made. Slowly she nodded, accepting their offer. It was a decision that filled her with both hope and uncertainty. She had survived on her own for so long that relying on others felt strange. Yet, as she held the infant gently in her arms once more, she knew that she could not have come this far without courage and trust. Now, it was time to embrace connection, to learn, and to grow. The elder led her to a small group of children near the edge of the village. They looked at her with curiosity, some shyly stepping back, while others approached with cautious interest. The girl smiled softly and offered a gentle wave. One child came forward, reaching toward her hand, and she allowed a tentative touch. Laughter bubbled from the group, and the girl felt a sense of warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she felt part of something larger than herself. She had always walked alone, but now she could belong. In the days that followed, the girl began to learn the rhythms of village life. She helped gather berries and water, learned to build small fires, and observed the warriors as they trained and prepared for daily tasks. She learned not only about survival but also about care, cooperation, and responsibility. Each day brought small lessons, and with each lesson she felt stronger, more capable, and more connected. She realized that her actions, protecting the child, facing fear, and choosing courage, had opened the door to a life she had never imagined. One evening, the elder took her aside and led her to the edge of the village overlooking the mountains. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. He gestured to the horizon, then to her, and finally to the child sleeping peacefully in its mother's arms. The meaning was clear. Her bravery had created a bond, not just with the child, but with the entire community. The mountains, which had once felt lonely and dangerous, now seemed alive with possibilities. The girl understood that courage, compassion, and care could change the course of life, not only for herself but for others as well. That night the girl lay near the warmth of the fire, listening to the soft murmurs of the village around her. She thought about the long, cold night in the mountains, about the coyotes and frost, and about the small life she had protected. Tears filled her eyes as she realized how far she had come. She had faced fear, loneliness, and danger, and she had chosen courage. That choice had not only saved a life, but had given her a place in the world she had never known before. The following morning, she awoke with a sense of purpose. The elder approached and gestured for her to rise. Today, she would begin learning more actively from the tribe, observing their routines and practicing the skills they valued. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, but the warmth of the community and the gratitude of the child's family gave her strength. She had been alone for so long, yet now she was surrounded by people who recognized her courage and welcomed her presence. Over the next weeks, the girl became more confident in her place within the village. She learned to track small animals, gather medicinal herbs, and assist in the daily routines of care and preparation. The warriors treated her as part of their group, offering guidance without criticism and respect without expectation. She realized that belonging did not mean losing herself. It meant sharing her courage, wisdom, and care with others. The girl had survived on her own for many months, but now she understood that strength and courage could also come from connection, trust, and mutual care.
The infant, now safe and growing stronger, often reached toward her with tiny hands, and the girl felt a bond that transcended words.
She had brought life through danger into safety, and in return she had received acceptance, gratitude, and a sense of purpose. She understood that her choices had meaning, and that even small acts of courage could ripple outward to affect many lives. She had learned that life was not only about surviving, it was about protecting, caring, and creating bonds that strengthened everyone involved. As the sun set behind the mountains one evening, the girl stood with the elder at the edge of the village, watching the golden light fade into twilight. The baby's laughter echoed from the center of the village, mingling with the soft voices of the warriors and children. The girl felt a quiet joy settle in her heart. She had faced the harshest elements of the world alone, protected a life against impossible odds, and now found herself part of a community that valued her courage and kindness. She realized that this was the true reward of bravery, not recognition, not praise, but the knowledge that one's actions could create safety, hope, and connection for others. The mountains, once cold and lonely, now held the promise of life, learning, and belonging. The girl knew that her journey was far from over, but she felt ready. She had faced fear, embraced courage, and discovered the power of care. And as she looked out over the village, the child in its mother's arms, and the warriors moving with calm purpose, she understood that her life, once defined by solitude, had been rewritten by her own bravery. She had created a path not just for herself but for others, and the mountain pass, once a place of danger, had become a symbol of hope, courage, and new beginnings. The orphan girl woke to the soft glow of dawn spilling across the village. Birds sang their morning songs, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the trees created a peaceful rhythm. She stretched her arms and smiled softly. Life had changed so much in the past days. From being alone in the mountains facing the cold and wild animals, she had become part of a community. She had protected a child through danger, earned the respect of the warriors, and found a place where she belonged. Her heart felt full, yet she knew that each new day would bring new lessons and responsibilities. The infant, now safe and healthy, slept peacefully in a small cradle near the center of the village. Its mother sat close, gently smoothing the blankets and humming soft words. The girl approached quietly, kneeling beside the child. She reached out, touching the small hand gently. The infant's tiny fingers curled around hers, and she smiled. This connection, forged in the cold of the mountains and nurtured through care and courage, was something she would carry with her forever. She understood that protecting a life was not only an act of bravery, it was a bond that could last a lifetime. Throughout the morning, the girl worked alongside the villagers, helping to gather food and water, repair simple structures, and learn the ways of the community. The elder who had first found her guided her with patience and care, showing her how to track small animals, recognize the signs of the forest, and prepare herbs for healing. Each task strengthened her confidence. Each lesson taught her more than survival. It taught her trust, cooperation, and the importance of being part of something greater than herself. The warriors watched her closely, but not with suspicion. Their eyes were filled with respect and quiet encouragement. They had seen her courage in action, had witnessed the choice she had made to protect the child, and now they saw her grow in skill and confidence. The girl felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time, she realized that bravery was not only about facing danger, it was also about choosing to help others, even when no one else would. She had learned that her actions mattered, and that courage could ripple outward to touch many lives. One afternoon, the elder led her to the edge of the mountain pass, overlooking the wide valley below. The wind blew softly, carrying the scent of pine and fresh earth. He gestured toward the horizon, then toward her, and finally toward the village. The meaning was clear. Her courage had created a bridge between the wild mountains and this community. She had protected a life that mattered deeply to them, and in doing so, she had found her own place in the world. She felt a quiet joy fill her heart, a joy she had not known in many months of loneliness. The girl spent the following weeks learning more about the tribe and its ways. She learned how to track animals, gather herbs, and prepare small fires safely. She practiced listening to the subtle signs of nature, the movement of the wind, the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of animals. Each lesson made her feel stronger and more capable. The villagers treated her with kindness and respect, and she began to understand the meaning of community. For the first time, she felt that her life had purpose beyond survival. She was not alone. She belonged, and her actions had created connections that would last. The infant grew stronger each day, reaching for her small hands, cooing and laughing in the safety of its family. The girl spent many hours watching, helping, and learning how to care for the child. She realized that her choice to protect this life had opened a door, not only for the child, but for herself as well. She had faced the cold and the wild alone, and now she was learning that strength also came from compassion, patience, and love. Each smile from the infant reminded her that bravery could be gentle and nurturing, not only bold and daring. One morning, the elder invited her to join a small gathering of the warriors and villagers near the center of the village. They had prepared a small ceremony to honor her courage. The girl felt a mix of pride and shyness. She had never been recognized before, and the attention made her heart beat faster. Yet, as the elder spoke in soft words, explaining her bravery and the care she had shown for the child, she realized that this recognition was more than praise. It was a welcome into a family, a tribe that valued her choices and respected her actions. The villagers and warriors each came forward offering small gestures of kindness. A handful of berries, a soft blanket, a gentle smile. They spoke words of thanks in their language, and though she did not understand all of them, she felt their meaning. Gratitude, respect, and trust filled the air. She realized that her life, once defined by loneliness and fear, had been transformed by her courage and care. The mountain pass, which had once been a place of danger, had become a symbol of hope, connection, and new beginnings. As the days turned into weeks, the girl became more integrated into village life. She helped care for younger children, assisted in gathering food, and learned the ways of the warriors. Each task deepened her understanding of community and responsibility. She began to see herself not just as a survivor, but as someone who could contribute meaningfully to the lives of others. Her courage had created trust, and trust had opened the door to belonging. One evening she stood at the edge of the village, watching the sun set behind the distant mountains. The sky was painted with shades of gold, pink, and purple, and the valley below was calm and peaceful. She held the infant's blanket in her hands, remembering the night she had found the child alone, cold, and in danger. The memory of fear and uncertainty filled her briefly, but it was quickly replaced by pride and gratitude. She had faced the unknown, protected a life, and in doing so had found a place where she truly belonged. The elder approached her quietly and gestured toward the village, then to the mountains, and finally to the child's family. He spoke softly, his meaning clear. She had created safety, hope, and connection. Her actions had made a lasting difference. The girl nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had learned that bravery was not only about surviving, it was about caring, choosing wisely, and creating bonds that strengthened others as well as herself. As the night settled over the village, the girl sat near the fire with the infant's mother and the elder. They spoke in quiet tones, teaching her about the ways of the tribe and sharing stories of courage, wisdom, and care. She listened closely, absorbing each word, each gesture, and each lesson. She realized that her journey was far from over, but that she was no longer alone. She had survived the darkness, faced fear, and discovered that courage, care, and connection could change the course of life. The orphaned girl had grown in ways she had never imagined. She had learned that strength was not only measured by endurance or skill, but by compassion, courage, and the choices one made for others. She had protected a life when it mattered most, and in doing so had found a place where she was valued, trusted, and loved. Her heart was full, not just for herself, but for the bonds she had created and the lives she had touched. In the weeks that followed, the girl became a respected member of the village. She assisted in caring for children, learning skills from the warriors, and helping with daily tasks. Each day brought new challenges and lessons, and each day she grew stronger, wiser, and more confident. She had faced danger alone in the mountains, but now she faced life among others with courage and care. She realized that belonging was not about being sheltered from the world, but about sharing strength, kindness. The baby, now thriving and growing stronger, often reached for the girl's hands, laughing and cooing in delight. Each smile reminded her of the night she had found the child alone in the cold, and of the courage that had carried her through. She knew that her choice to act with bravery and care had created a ripple of trust and connection that would last far beyond this moment. The village had become her home, and the bond she had formed would guide her for the rest of her life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains and the sky turned shades of deep orange and purple, the girl stood at the edge of the village with the elder. They watched the valley below, the fires in the village glowing softly, and the laughter of children floating on the wind. She felt a deep peace settle in her heart. She had faced fear, embraced courage, and discovered the power of care. She had survived the harshest night of her life, protected a child, and found a place where she truly belonged. The mountains, once cold and lonely, now seemed alive with hope, connection, and possibility. The girl understood that her life had been rewritten, not by chance, but by her own choices. Courage, compassion, and determination had carried her through the darkness and into the light of community, trust, and belonging. She had created a path for herself, one that was not only about survival, but about purpose, care, and love. As night fell, she returned to the small dwelling where she slept near the warmth of the fire. The infant, now safe and thriving, slept peacefully nearby. She whispered softly to herself, "I did what was right. I made a difference." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of her journey, the fear, the courage, and the choices that had shaped her life. She felt gratitude for the lessons, the people, and the bonds she had discovered. The orphaned girl, once alone and wandering the mountains, had found her place in the world. She had faced danger, made brave choices, and nurtured life when it was most vulnerable. She had discovered the meaning of courage, the power of care, and the strength of connection. And as she closed her eyes that night, she knew that her journey had led her not only to safety and belonging, but to a life full of purpose, hope, and the lasting impact of kindness.